the team? What if I don't make any friends? What if everyone hates me? What if I show up in the wrong place? What if? The beginning of all my nervous breakdowns. Those two words may be the most powerful or annoying words in the English language. Or at least to me. Whenever I'm in a new situation, whether my mom forced me to come or I manage to convince myself to go, as soon as I get there, I feel like a fish out of water. Questions keep pouring into my head like the ones I just mentioned, and once I answer one of them, suddenly I have 10 more new concerns. And half of them are extremely implausible. So yeah, I guess you could say I feel like the odd one out. Or a fish out of water. As some of my fellow Tedsters said to me when I mentioned my title for this talk, you know who you are, my speech is called Fish Out of Water, if you didn't know. This is what they said. Wait, but don't fish die when they're out of the water? And I couldn't have said that better myself, because to me, when you're in a new situation, it kind of feels like you're dying, flopping around just trying to survive. One time, I was going to do a laser tag thing at the Northford Public Library, and I was looking forward to it. I mean, I was going to run around the library for an hour. Seems fun, right? Well, I thought the same thing. That is, until I got there. Everything seemed fine until out of nowhere I started freaking out. All of the thoughts kept pouring into my head until it was the only thing I could focus on. I started crying. I was overwhelmed with all the thoughts. I'm not going to get into all the details, but I want to let you know it all worked out. It's all about the way you look at it. Sometimes I can be kind of a pessimist in situations where I would be helping myself a lot more if I decided to take a step into optimism land. Or, as some may say, turn that frown upside down. In my opinion, everyone you will meet has felt at least once in their life that they've hit rock bottom, that there is nowhere to go from there, that they tried their best, but it didn't work. And that's good. Personally, I felt like that a few times. A couple where I didn't tell anyone, and I definitely regret doing that. Everyone is going to hit a speed bump in their life. Even if it's something that in the grand scheme of things won't matter maybe even an hour later, every so often, and that's life. If you ever feel like this, I'm talking to my future self also. You just have to go out there, and even if things are hard, that's fine. I promise they'll get better sooner or later. Another thing I want to talk about is making friends in new situations. It's hard. Again, you feel like a fish out of water. For people like me, it can seem next to impossible to make friends in unfamiliar situations. And if you're in a situation where you don't really know anyone, sometimes you convince yourself not to try something new. But you'll never really know what you're missing out on. I'm going to be honest. It's hard to make friends in new situations if you ask me. But that's the point. You have to push through when it gets hard and you don't have any friends. What would the world be like if you could just walk up to someone, say hello, and bam, you're lifelong friends? Honestly, that would be pretty great, but it's not like that. Chances are, people may not even become friends with you. But at least you tried, which leads me into another topic that some of you may know as regret. Regret is one of the number one things that keeps people from doing or not doing big or small things, if you ask me. And it's one of the number one things that me, at least, is terrified of. No one likes to be out of their comfort zone, especially me. There are two main categories of regret that I can categorize my personal regret into. Regretting what you did and regretting what you didn't do. They're both equally terrible, and they both lead back to that one question I originally mentioned. What if? If I had done this instead of this, what would have happened? If I didn't do this, then... Now, whenever I start asking myself these questions, I revert into my shell like a turtle, and I don't come out for hours. Sometimes I may even have a breakdown, because I decide that it would be best if I decided not to do something, but then I think to myself that I should have seen it, and it's just an endless cycle of back and forth. This is a problem, and I need to fix it. I know, but how? Well, you can't really fix how you are, but you can look back at all that happened and think, I tried. It may not have worked, but I tried, and that's all you can do. There's one more thing I want to talk about, the silver lining. Now, I have been one heck of a negative Nancy for the past 5 pages, but there's one more thing, the good in all the bad. Let me share a good story with you, or a good one with a good outcome. I began swimming about 5 years ago, but the story of how I got here is a doozy. I was about 7 and I had never been on a competitive team before. When I was little, I was even more uncomfortable in new situations than I am today. So when my mom announced I'd be joining a summer swim team, I was excited, over the moon. I even wrote this note and stuck it on my wall saying, "Note to self, have fun at swimming." I was 7, by the way. Until I got there. It was raining, a good reflection of my mood at that moment, and everyone was talking to each other, and I didn't know anyone. Upon seeing this, I ran into my mom's arms crying, not wanting to get into the pool. The only thing I wanted to do was go home. After much arguing, I ended up swimming. Now, let's take a quick poll. Who thinks I immediately got out of the pool and ran home? Who thinks I loved it and had a blast? And who thinks I hated it? I hated it. As soon as I got home, I leaped out of the pool, and when I got home, slammed my door and cried. But I've been swimming for 5 years, might I remind you. How? Well, I pushed through. I went back the next day and tried again. I again made friends in the most unfamiliar of ways. And I wish I could say we're still best friends, but we're not. I wish when I see them, I say hi, of course, and it's just that we all took our separate paths. And look where it left me. I still love to swim, and I'm constantly learning new things every day. There will always be good and the bad. Sometimes you'll be so distracted, you won't realize it's right there in front of you. Sometimes you'll have to look a little harder, and sometimes you'll just need to wait for it to come. Looking back at all my trials and errors and accomplishments, the good always outweighs the bad. Sometimes we all try our best, and it may not work, and we never want to be in an uncomfortable situation ever again. So we avoid new things. But looking back, you can see what you did wrong and fix it. And maybe your regret won't go away, or putting yourself out there won't have worked. I'm only 12, and I have so many great stories that I can tell. And I also have bad ones. But what matters is that while it seems there may only be bad in front of your window, you may need to open the blinds a little to find the good. But if you hit rock bottom, there's only one way to go from there. And if my speech was as effective as I hope it was, I think you know the only other way.